In my last video, I spoke about what Beerbiceps said about karma. That is the perfect example of a bad claim. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to identify such bad claims and how to fight them in an argument. What I'm gonna say here was originally supposed to be there in my main video, but it's too long a tangent that I didn't want to get into there, and I decided to make a separate video. If you haven't watched the original video, I'll leave a link up here, but if you have watched it, then you can skip to the next section in the scroll bar. The karma video that I'm gonna talk about is, in my opinion, a treasure when it comes to examples of logical fallacies. I'm going to explain all of them in detail and give you an easy way to identify them and fight them in an argument. Whenever someone makes an argument or a response to something and the logic they used has an error in it, it's called a logical fallacy. Ranveer makes several logical fallacies in this video. Let's look at them.
And for the people who say that, how can you prove that it exists? My question to you is, how can you prove that it doesn't exist?
First one, whenever someone makes a claim and instead of supporting it with evidence, they leave it to the listener to prove him wrong. What they're doing is they're shifting that burden of proving a claim right or wrong onto the listener, shifting the burden of proof.
There must be some truth in that concept, which has caused so many books to be written on that concept, which has caused so many evolved people to turn to spirituality, so many evolved people to talk about karma so often.
Second one, a claim doesn't have to be right just because a lot of people believe in it. It's only believable once there's convincing evidence for it. This one's called an appeal to popularity, and it's often used as an argument in support of a belief in God. There are more believers in the world than non-believers, but that doesn't mean the believers are right.
There has to be some truth. And if you're going to switch off that possibility completely, you're limiting your own growth. Be open and curious. Don't come to conclusions.
We don't know, it could be true. We don't know it's false. Be open to the possibility. This kind of bad argument appeals to the fact that we are ignorant about the truth or falsity of something. This is called an appeal to ignorance. But there's an easier way to identify such claims. Carl Sagan gives a beautiful analogy in his book, A Demon-Haunted World. Let's say I tell you that I have a dragon in my house. That's a pretty incredible claim to make, so you don't believe me. You say, show it to me. I take you inside my house and I say, there it is. But you're confused. You don't see a dragon. You ask where? And I say, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, it's an invisible dragon. Like, what the f? You say, okay, let's spread some powder on the floor so that its footprints become visible. And I say, no, the dragon actually is in the air all the time. It's flying all the time. So there are no footprints. You say, okay, I'm going to use my infrared goggles to see the heat from the fire that the dragon spits. And I say, oh no, the fire that the dragon spits, it's heatless. It doesn't burn anything. You're beginning to get suspicious. You say, okay, I'm gonna throw some paint on the dragon so that its outline becomes visible. And I say, oh no, that won't work because this dragon is intangible. It's a non-physical dragon. To every question you ask, I have a reply preventing you from knowing if the dragon is really there. At this point, you should ask me, okay, what's the difference between your invisible, intangible dragon and no dragon at all? And I wouldn't be able to give you an answer. Go ahead, try and think of one. Put it down in the comments. Very often the claims we hear are like this. Take karma, for example. Let's try and figure out if this is true or false. Let's say you did a bad deed. According to the law of karma, something bad is gonna happen to you. But when? Nobody knows. What if it were false? What if something good happens to you? Does that show that the law of karma is false? No, it doesn't, because this could have been the consequence of something good that you did. Maybe the bad consequence is only about to come. Now, what if you die before that bad consequence comes along? Does that prove the law of karma to be false? No, it doesn't, right? Because the bad consequence could happen to you in your next rebirth. Maybe the circumstances of your next birth may be really bad. Maybe you're born to a very poor family. Basically, nothing can happen that can disprove this law of karma. There's nothing that you can observe that can show the idea to be false. Anything is possible. Such ideas that rule out nothing are called unfalsifiable ideas. You cannot disprove such ideas. Karma is an unfalsifiable idea. Rebirth or reincarnation is an unfalsifiable idea. The dragon I spoke about earlier, that's an unfalsifiable idea. So, how do you identify such bad ideas? As I said, a claim that rules nothing out. That's what an unfalsifiable claim is. And so the best way to identify if a claim is unfalsifiable is to think to yourself, hey, if this claim were true, what is it not possible to observe? And if you can't think of anything as an answer to that question, then probably the claim is unfalsifiable. They're usually justified with, you have to be open to the possibility. Be open-minded, bro. Don't be close-minded. There must be some truth to it if so many people are believing it. Can you prove that it's not true? And they usually come in the following forms. X exists. Replace X with literally anything that there is no evidence for, and you have an unfalsifiable claim. Karma exists, invisible dragons exist, unicorns exist, Bigfoot exists, Himalayan mountain beasts exist, ancient aircrafts exist, or conspiracy theories like aliens exist among us, or lizard people exist. These are all unfalsifiable claims. In the absence of convincing evidence, there is no difference between the claim being true or false. While we're on this topic, God exists is an unfalsifiable claim. You can't disprove the existence of God. And this is the primary reason why I'm an atheist. There are many funny parodies on this topic, like the flying spaghetti monster, which is also an unfalsifiable idea. Play along with me. Whatever you can think of that is unfalsifiable, list them down in the comments. 2. Just my opinion. Donald Trump is racist. That's just my opinion though. This part alone is an assertion, but you add this part to it and you make it unfalsifiable. You can't prove an opinion to be false. It's not a fact. You can have any opinion that you want. I think that the sun rises in the west. That's an opinion. Now, the sun rises in the west is false. But I think that the sun rises in the west, you can't say it's false. It may be a bad opinion, but it's an opinion. This statement can also take the form, I think Donald Trump is racist, I feel Donald Trump is racist, Donald Trump is probably racist, etc. I just want to add one more point here about how these claims often come up with these excuses every time you either try to verify evidence in support of the claim or try to falsify it using a counterexample. The claim has these excuses for why that won't work, a means to escape falsification. For example, in the dragon example that I gave earlier, it's these disclaimers like invisible, heatless fire, intangible dragon, all these things. In the case of karma, it might be something like the bad consequence will happen to you in your next rebirth, when no one really knows where that's gonna be. So it can't be verified. In the case of God, maybe you failed really badly at something despite the fact that you were praying really hard. You might hear something like, God only helps those who help themselves. Maybe you were not working hard enough. So all these statements just help the claim escape falsification. And yeah, I just thought I'll leave you with this image that I found when I was browsing the internet. This is another way of escaping falsification. Yeah, by now it should be pretty obvious how to spot such claims, but still let's discuss that. So how do you argue with a person who's making unfalsifiable claims? First, if you recognize that the claim they're making is unfalsifiable, then half the battle is over. Most of what you have to do comes in that recognition part. What you have to do next is ask something along the lines of, what is the difference between an invisible unicorn that you can't even touch and there not being any unicorn? What is the difference between the Bigfoot which no one has seen and no Bigfoot at all? What is the difference between a god that there is no evidence for and no god at all? Basically something along these lines. What is the difference between your claim being true and it being false? How can anybody know? Let me know if you have other responses like these. Let me know in the comments. With that, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, remember, science is dope.